Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing a 1,000-piece limited edition from the 2005 model year from IWC, a fusion of past and present. This is the IWC Portuguese hand-wound F.A. Jones limited edition, reference 5442-01. This is what pink gold looks like, not rose, not red. It's halfway between rose and yellow. Pink gold, 18 karat, in a watch 43 millimeters in diameter on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist. It's surprisingly wearable at 11.1 millimeters thick, and when you measure it lug to lug, it's nicely constrained, only 50.8 millimeters, and you can see how the downward curvature of the lugs really does help it to drape itself around a borderline wrist. So even if you got the small wrist, I think this watch is going to work. I would say you could wear this watch on a wrist as small as 14.5 centimeters circumference. It will fit well. The spacing between the lugs, 22 millimeters, so though vintage inspired, the stance on the wrist with that broad lug spacing is very contemporary. Now jumping into the strap, you can see that it's a handsome honey brown, nicely executed with a semi-gloss finish. You can see the monotone stitch, heavily bolstered. It's also thickly cut. As you can see, the layers of construction in the sheer side. Turn it all over, calfskin. You can see this is an IWC factory strap in outstanding condition, and it's matched with an IWC pink gold pin buckle, a handsome piece with a little kerf inside the buckle for the pin. I always like that detail. It tells me that the watch designers are paying attention. Individual numbering, not common on IWC limited editions. Generally you would see 1 of 1,000, but this was a special run, and each watch is unique because each watch has its own individual number in that series of 1 grand. The case band is elegant. This is where it really taps into the vintage aesthetic of the Portuguese line, as the Portuguese, dated back to 1939 in its first iteration, the reference 325, was a giant Calatrava style watch in its day, with the same look of the contemporary Patek Philippe reference 96, which was unofficially the first Calatrava. The Portuguese was a much larger version of the same basic integrated form follows function design ethic, the difference being that the Portuguese was built for superb accuracy, thus it had to be large enough as a wristwatch to hold the most accurate movement available at the time, which was an IWC pocket watch caliber. This is why the Portuguese became the original oversized watch, and it is a dress watch, as you can see, with a combination of satin finish and polish, that vintage-inspired ultra-slim caseband made to look even more so by means of the contrast between the polished case back, the polished bezel, and the satin-finished mid-case. You'll also note that to pair the mass visually, there's a concave bezel profile, again, like you'll find on many Patek Philippe watches. Now, the Portuguese heritage ends on the dial side, where we look back to F.A. Jones, Florentine Ariosto Jones, the Boston-based American founder of International Watch Company back in 1868. Outside, we have Portuguese. Inside, we have a dial evocative of Jones's own pocket watches that he designed and which were built by the watchmaking craftsmen of German-speaking Switzerland in Schaffhausen. As he arrived in Switzerland with intent to produce watches for the American market, F.A. Jones took its patents first to the French-speaking Swiss Watch Valley in the West, and he found that they were not interested in bringing in an American shop foreman. They were afraid of American mass production intruding into their methods. But the German-speaking Swiss were open-minded, and thus IWC was born. You could see a vintage-inspired pocket watch-style 12-layer, hand-applied and autoclave-cured lacquer dial, several layers of the white lacquer applied to give it a bottomless, glossy look like vintage IWC pocket watch enamel, and then a final clear coat added on top, several in fact. You have brigade style hands like the vintage pocket watches in gold. You have gold-toned vintage Arabic numerals. These are not Art Deco style. They're a bit more florid and elaborate with a railroad style counterweighted needle seconds sub-display at 6 o'clock. You have a onion style vintage crown. The watch does feature stop seconds. When you pull the crown out, you can adjust the time, but you'll note that the seconds hand stops. Inside, as on the first Portuguese, you have a pocket watch caliber. This is IWC manufacturer caliber 98290, manual wind, 46-hour power reserve, big slow beating balance, almost 1/3 the diameter of the enormous 36+ millimeter diameter movement. Overcoil hairspring adjusted in 5 positions like a chronometer. You can adjust it in 5 positions with tremendous timing results because of that overcoil hairspring architecture and the overcoil made by hand. You can see the enormous hacking lever adjacent to the balance. Watch right underneath my finger. When I pull the crown out, that hacking lever stops the balance so I can set the watch precisely. The watch isn't very well wound. I should energize it, but 46-hour power reserve, 18,000 vibrations per hour, overcoil hairspring, 18 joules, 5-position chronometer style adjustment, and a pocket watch architecture with a 3/4 style bridge with damascening. You can see the finish on the bridges, evocative of those late 19th century F.A. Jones IWC pocket watches. The movement is a classic center wheel, conventional train pocket watch layout. You can see the crown wheel, a very elaborate click that it's actually an extensible click with an extended click spring. You can see how that works to prevent the barrel from driving backwards. The crown wheel, the click and click spring, you have the ratchet wheel, the barrel underneath, the center wheel, third wheel, fourth wheel, escape wheel. You can see the anchor. You can see the extraordinary extended Jones arrow or Jones index, a vintage regulating mechanism as originally proffered by F.A. Jones in his first designs, and a pocket watch style set of train jewels set in golden chaton. This is as good as it gets, guys. 30 meters water resistant, but why on earth would you ever take it into the water? This is as good as it gets, not just on the dial side, but on the case back, on the exterior. Everything that is good and great about IWC, if you don't want to go for a pilot's watch, this is one of the two pillars along with the pilot, the IWC Portuguese, or in the language of Schaffhausen, the Portugueser, and this is one of the finest. Reference 5442-01. See it and make it yours on the watch box.